to Reacting with Friends. Hello, Peter.
Hello, Danny.
Hello, and we're both English teachers in South Korea.
Well, yeah, in theory.
But sometimes people have bad stories to tell. They have really bad stories.
Yeah.
A lot of teachers in South Korea work for Hagwons.
The best way I could think of how to explain it is to say they're like little private schools.
Basically, like an
small private school, yeah.
After school kind of thing.
After school, sometimes they actually cater towards the parents of kindergarteners and preschool. So they have days beginning at maybe 8:50 or 9 o'clock in the morning.
And unfortunately, they're not all good places to be. Some could be horrible places. Like this story of this girl we have. Her name is Cherry Royal. You can find her YouTube channel. We'll link to her channel in the description here. And she is going to tell her story about her Hagwon experience.
Okay.
Okay, so you ready?
Yeah.
I cried a lot. She threatened to fire me. She was probably one of the worst people I've ever met in Korea, that I've got chlamydia.
What? Who? What? What?
She's a worst person she met in Korea gave her chlamydia.
Whoa, chlamydia?
Yeah, there's a lot of editing there, so let's go see what that's about.
Okay, yeah.
Nice pictures though.
Yeah, very nice pictures.
Yeah.
She looks happy there.
Yeah, she looks happy, but she's definitely not happy in this.
Not in most of the video. Let's
see what she got.
I guess.
Why I really quit teaching.
Hello and welcome to a video about why I actually decided to quit teaching English here in South Korea. So I want to quickly get into the past 5 years of my teaching history in this country. Job number 1 was at an English village, which was a government-run organisation, and that's...
I hear the English villages are the worst.
Well, an English village, from what I understand, is it's a Hagwon. It's a private school, but they're a little
funded
unique.
by the government, kind of.
Okay.
That's what I heard. Yeah, they're funded by the government.
So it's more like a state school with subsidies, or is it?
Yeah,
still...
subsidies kind of thing, but
okay.
But still, they have a business run it for them.
Okay, but still they get money from the government, so the government should be aware of what goes on at these little government.
Yeah, you would think so. You would think so, but from what I hear is they're the worst. I never worked at a village before, but I've heard stories about that too.
School treated me like absolute garbage. The working hours were like 8 until 6. I worked on Saturdays. I worked overtime all the time for free, and then it was just a toxic work environment. Not to mention my apartment was infested with cockroaches, and it was just a horrible place to work, live and be. So the second place I worked at was a very well-known Hagwon franchise in Seoul. It didn't start off very well. They put me up at a love motel, which stank of cigarette smoke, and I shadowed someone. The first month's paycheck I got was like 280,000 won, which was supposedly half pay. My salary there was 2.1 million won, so I did...
What?
Okay, there's some mathematics here.
Strange math there. It's half of what she should get is like a million. About a little over 1 million won.
Well, that's still low.
200,000, yeah, it's still pretty low.
280 is what she said.
280,000, that's not
That's half of 560.
Yeah,
so sounds like
a quarter. Yeah. Before we go any further, I do want to say, you notice how she's keeping the name of the school out of it. She does she does that for a reason. The slander and libel laws here are so strong that if you even mention the name of something, if it's true or not, you still get in trouble. If you say anything bad about one person or one school or one company, you get sued. That's another video again.
Yeah, I find it impressive, tangent. But
that could be a tangent.
Yeah. So she was working at one place, and then she got another job someplace else, and Oh gosh, I wish I could could we rewind and see that?
Yeah, we
like
could rewind a bit. Let's go back right here. See what she says here.
It was like 280,000 won, which was supposedly half pay. My salary there was 2.1 million won, so I don't know how that worked out.
Exactly.
But basically, I was broke for the first 2 or 3 months in between my first job and that job and getting an actual paycheck. Not to mention my first school paid me incorrectly, so I owed the tax office 600,000 won, which I had to pay. Working at the Hagwon was exhausting. Initially I worked from 1 p.m. until 9 p.m, but then they said my personality was so bubbly and fun that they wanted me to teach kindy, so they switched me to the kindy hours, which was 9 a.m. till 6 p.m. However, they still needed someone to work both of those shifts.
No, that's not right.
That's
totally.
It's beyond. It's unrealistic. I mean, what do people think foreigners are capable of? Because it's hard enough to work from maybe, what does he say?
9 to 6.
9 to 6. That's what I work.
That's kind of where I work. That's like a 9-hour day.
That's 9 hours, and
then on top of that, she has to work extra hours to make
for 2 months.
Yeah.
But did she get any extra pay for that?
I don't know.
Never mind that. I mean, can one's body actually...
Well, let's see what happens.
Until they hired a new teacher, so I actually worked from 9 a.m. till 9 p.m. for 2 months. I cried a lot. I got, I think, something like 7 days vacation that year, which was a lot better than my first job at the English Village, where I got 3 days of vacation for the entire year.
7 days?
So after my Hagwon, where I left, obviously, I did say I would consider staying if they paid me housing allowance, but they only offered me 200,000 won. So the next school I went to, I was very cautious about where I would work, and I went on a 2-month trial period. Another Hagwon, it was in Gangnam, and I was basically just covering for a teacher that had to go home for a family emergency. They were lovely. It was almost too good to be true. The reason being that it was too good to be true, and over the course of almost 18 months, I was in tears almost every day at that school. The boss said some of the most horrific things to me. She threatened to fire me the day before I moved into my apartment, knowing full well that I had paid a deposit to move in there and signed a contract for 12 months.
Now that's just too much there.
And she was supposed to be paying, the school was meant to be paying for my the remainder of my deposit and my rent. So basically she backed me into a corner. I asked them if I can change my hours to finish at 4 p.m. instead of 6 p.m. and they agreed for me to change my hours for the same pay, but later decided they were going to cut my pay to 2 million, and other teachers were getting paid 3.5 million won. So you best believe I was pretty angry to find out.
How'd she find that out? I mean, the schools, the academies do their best to keep that secret, how much they're paying each of the employees.
You know, it's interesting. I don't even know what the American custom is anymore. I mean, the idea of, oh, hey man, how much do you make? How much do you make? How much? That could be somewhat private if you talk to people at work. In Korea, many of the English teachers were working pretty much in getting the same amount of pay, or we ought to be. Yeah. Or, I mean, if somebody has seniority someplace and they have more experience,
they should be in the neighborhood somewhere in the same.
They should be able to negotiate for a slightly better contract. However, there's such disparity there. Yeah. You know, if you're shaving 2 hours off every day, you know, should it really be dropped down to like a third of what everybody is getting? Because you're not working a third of the time. You're working. Right. You're still working. Maybe the fractions don't make sense.
New math.
New math.
Some of that calculus stuff no one understands anyway.
I was the teacher getting paid the least amount at the school, and I wasn't the teacher that had been there the least amount of time. I wasn't the teacher with the least amount of experience, and it was just awful. The director there was like your narcissistic parent with a victim complex. She was out of this world horrific, and she was a devout Christian. I have never met, like, I just don't understand how these people can profess to be religious and Christian and be so awful.
It's like exploiting a religion
to people and treat people so badly. Not to mention she was a professor at Yonsei University.
Can we stop?
So honestly, I don't know.
Okay, there's a little bit to delve into. So first of all, what was she saying? That the teacher
was devout Christian.
I can't. It's hard for me to reconcile that with Christ's teachings. Being a devout Christian myself, and also understanding something about Korean culture, which is not inherently historically a Judeo-Christian culture. Right. You have a lot of, I don't know, baggage from Confucianism and Buddhism, and in just, I guess, human folly and frailties and sin. I know a lot of people, like, if they're the big boss, they believe that they're like a king or queen and what they say goes.
Right. Yeah.
You know, here. Also, I know many from my experience with managers and just many people in general here, they tend to be a bit manipulative and kind of misleading about certain things. They like to put up a good front, but when it comes down to it, they're kind of selfish in the way they run things. And you mentioned before a little bit about how they're exploiting the religious name.
Yes.
Well,
yes,
I think that's ultimately using God's name in vain. That's one of the Ten Commandments of broken. Not so much cursing and swearing using God's name, which is wrong too.
I don't think they care.
But,
they don't really care.
Well,
it's just a name for them.
Well, the point is that this person more on a spiritual level, the owner of the Hagwon, this person needs to be aware of that. Okay, it's one thing when you bend and break man's law, but if you start using God's name in vain like that, that's dangerous territory. And they need to and I'm saying this as a brother in Christ, that maybe they need to stop and reassess what they're doing in their own personal lives and the way they conduct business, because this is just bad, and this is the evidence, and this is the result.
Right.
She was probably one of the worst people I've ever met in Korea. So I got what I thought was my dream job at a private elementary school. The hours were 8 to 4. Only 21 hours a week were actually teaching. And, on paper it seemed perfect. Lots of vacation, an hour for lunch, lots of prep time, yada, yada, yada. Yeah. In actuality, of course, as always with every school and contract in Korea, it just was not the case. There were 3 team members in my grade. I taught first grade. One was the team leader, who was a 50-year-old man. And then there was like a 27-year-old guy that started at the same time as me, but was obviously earning more than I was, because he was a man. If you are a white man in Korea teaching English, it's really easy to do well. It's also easy to do well as a white female, of course, but you will get paid more if you are a man.
I think for the kindergarten, early ages, they want females like her.
Yes, exactly. That's been our experience, because we're white men, and
they want
we've been turned down.
Students.
We've been turned down and for jobs because they want a female.
And young female.
Yes, someone that is traditionally, I guess, more nurturing.
Like Cherry. She's younger. She's white female. She has blonde hair, blue eyes. The poster child for perfect young student teacher.
My entire school was white. 18 teachers, all of them were white.
Pretty nice.
So from the offset, I was teaching on Zoom, which was difficult enough.
Yes.
But my team leader also gave me the additional job of editing 2 to 3 videos per day.
This is why you keep your YouTube channel silent. Don't tell your school that you know how to do this stuff.
Because
they will take advantage of you.
Yeah, this whole editing thing, this is a whole other field altogether.
Yes,
I mean, it's great that lots of people have learned how to do this. He and I actually have gone to school for this, and with today's modern equipment, I'm pretty rusty. He does most of the production, if not all of the production right now. These schools, they really want to make a show. They want to do it professionally, which is true, which is good, but we're professional teachers, not necessarily professional videographers. So it's not going to look as polished as they expect. This is another whole special demand on top of teaching and preparing classes and preparing extra material. We're not even talking 3 million won. Yeah. We're talking like 5 million won for this kind of work. Especially up in Seoul, where the cost of living is higher than
very high,
Busan.
So remember it. Keep it quiet.
For a YouTube channel specifically for first grade, no other grades did this. I had the task of filming on my camera, editing on my laptop, and doing that until the early hours of the morning every single night. My male counterpart, the other first grade teacher, did not do that.
Did he know how to?
Nothing at all. So I think the moral of the story here is, and it has been the case for my entire teaching career, is that if you work hard, they will give you more work to do.
That's true.
So if you take the attitude of you're not going to do it, then they just won't give you stuff to do. But if you're proactive and work hard, you're always given extra jobs to do. And it's extremely frustrating when you have more to do than people in the same position as you that are getting paid more. The workplace became extremely toxic. My team leader just gave me more and more work to do, and I was getting burnt out. And I reached out to him for support, and I said to him, I am at breaking point. I feel as though I'm going to quit. To which he responded, I'm at breaking point. I want to quit too.
That's advice. That's good advice. When the person you go to said the same thing you said. She said that her the person she went to for advice said, I'm at my breaking point, I want to quit. And the person she went to advice said, I'm at my breaking point, I want to quit.
Okay, so we have
bad advice there.
Well, it's not really advice. I mean, that's kind of like bonding and saying, okay, misery loves company. And
but
we've established a connection.
He was supposed to be the wiser of them that he's supposed to go to for advice. And so, what was that? Was I tell you if the wiser person says, I want to quit too?
Well, it might be somebody.
He's supposed to give you encouragement. Keep going, keep going.
Well, I would probably follow that up with, well, I've had a hard day too. Tell me about your problem, okay? And let's see if we can solve it. That would be some...
And I said, well, you're the team leader. You're actually the head teacher of the school. You're in charge of all of foreign teachers. It's kind of your job to support, at least me, your own team member. Like, I need you to help me. And he's like, well, I'm also, really struggling. So whilst I reached out for help, he didn't actually give me any support at all.
Okay.
So then a few days passed after that meeting, where he, as per his narcissistic self, made it all about him. Later he comes into my classroom when there is nobody else there. He came in and we chatted for a bit, and he said, I think that you're unhappy here and it's probably best if you leave. And I said, well, that's why I came to you for support. I was hoping maybe you could help. And his solution to my problem was telling me that I should ask people from my hometown for donations to help pay for my flight and safe return home from Korea to the United Kingdom. Effectively, he told me to start a GoFundMe. Later on, I had a meeting with my team leader, a co-worker, and the director of the English department, and
So he's saying if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen.
Well,
basically that was his advice.
Yeah, at first you have somebody reaching out and voicing a grievance about a hard day, and somebody saying, "Yeah, it's been a hard day for me too," instead of actually connecting, and saying, "Hey, you know what? Maybe everybody's having a hard day. Let's see how we can make this a more successful work environment."
That would have been a good opportunity for team building.
Well, the second meeting, he comes off and thinks, well, maybe the solution is her team leader. Maybe you should just get out and go. And that's like there were other problems that she needed addressed, and he, in his position, maybe he should have.
I think director talked to him.
That sounds exactly like what's happened. Yeah, it sounds like he was a manager who didn't have much managerial experience, or he should have, or he didn't approach it in a very constructive way.
He was the elder. That's why he was.
Oftentimes, people get a position because of that.
I just got so frustrated in the meeting because my team leader was just lying. Everything he said was just a lie, and I said, "Look, he told me I need to start a GoFundMe. When I asked him for support, when I asked him for help, he told me to get people to send me money so I can go home. How is that a team leader? How is that someone that should be in charge of other people?" And he just said, I didn't say it. I didn't say that. So then it became a case of,
he said, she said.
You know, he said, she said, and who is my director to believe? Is she going to believe me, or is she going to believe my team leader? I became so stressed out of this job that I had crippling, I could not stand up straight, pain in my lower abdomen for like 3 months. I went to the gynecologist. The director of the English department even came with me to the gynecologist, where they proceeded to tell her they had done, an internal ultrasound and various checks and tests. The only thing it could be was a sexually transmitted infection or disease. So I then had to have an STI check with my boss there in the same room.
Awkward.
Yeah, that's very awkward. But yeah, so she's at the doctor's and she's experiencing stress and
stress too much.
And sometimes with your boss there and they're just bouncing around all these ideas, the doctors and maybe somebody you'll work with.
Oh yeah, it's STD. Yeah,
but that's a quick jump.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
That's what?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, it's like insulting her too.
It is.
It's very insulting.
Of course, that came back negative 2 weeks later, but it was stressful just that happened, and like there was nothing I could really do to like stop that happening. No one at the doctors, at the gynecologist asked me, have I had unprotected sex? No one asked me. They just said, are you married? And I said no. And they said, are you a virgin? And I said no. So they automatically assumed then that I've got chlamydia.
All of a sudden she just fled.
After my STI check came back negative, I ended up sort of rushed to the emergency room because my pain, continued to worsen. They ran more tests, CT scan, blood work. I had an IV, and I came out with like a $500 bill. Nothing wrong with me.
And what was actually saying you're faking everything,
causing this pain to the point where I was like unable to stand. Like physical pain was stress. The stress of my job. I was so overworked and so stressed. It was emotionally exhausting, it was physically exhausting, and then it became a financial burden to be at this school because I couldn't afford to be there. All of my salary was spent on going to internal medicine doctors or gynecologists or the emergency room. Ultimately, I just said to my director, I can't stay here anymore. I'm exhausted. Physically, mentally, emotionally, I can't do it. I just can't do it anymore. And she said, it's kind of selfish of you to quit in the middle of the year.
It's selfish of the director to make her go through all this crap.
Common sense tells you, you've got to take care of yourself sometimes. If I don't go to the doctor and I get sick, I could die. Is it selfish of me to want to take care of my body and be sure that I'm okay?
But Yeah, selfish is not really the word I would use myself.
No. It's. But some people have a limited scope of language, so of course they'll say that, but somebody else will take it a different way because they have a grander scope of what it should be, and a more nuanced way of looking at it. The thing is that selfish is not the. She's not selfish. She's just worried about her own health. Like that's responsible. She has a responsibility to herself, of course.
Right. Yeah.
Actually told me it was the first time in the history of the school that anyone had ever quit in the middle of the semester, which actually wasn't true. 2 years prior to me starting, 2 teachers quit midway through the year, so that was a lie. Yeah. She told me it was selfish of me and she was disappointed in me and could I not just persevere, and I said if I persevere into the second semester I will teach the class lying down on the floor because that's how exhausted I am. And she laughed, but it wasn't a joke. That's genuinely how I felt. And if she had been able to offer me support and had taken my side rather than the side of my superior, then maybe I would have been able to stay. Unfortunately, there is no human resources department in Korea. You're basically just stuck where you are.
Yeah.
As I tried to leave the school, I handed in my 3 months notice. That was the requirement. She said she would pay me.
By Korean labor law, you only have to give 30 days notice.
Okay.
In order to be eligible for your letter of release. So them having you sign contracts for 60 days, 90 days, that's wrong. They can't do that. They cannot do that.
Okay.
Pay me until like a month and a half after I handed in my notice, and I said no, it's in my contract, 3 months, I'm giving you 3 months, pay me those 3 months. She agreed to pay me about 2.5 months, which I was like, okay. She wanted to charge me 400,000 won for a recruitment fee. I spoke to them.
Illegal. That's illegal. They can't charge you. They can't have you reimburse recruitment fee.
You know what really surprises me about all of this is I remember hearing much more of these stories, much more of this kind of story maybe 10 or 15 years ago. And with greater diversity in the workplaces, more, I guess, autonomy amongst foreign run classes, I thought that some of this was kind of a thing of the past, particularly in a more urban area such as Seoul. But gosh, what's going on? Yeah.
Well, I think she has a case. She has a real strong case for the labor board right here.
Ministry of Education, who informed me that's illegal, and I said I'm not going to pay this, and I'm still waiting on my severance and final paycheck, so that remains to be seen. But yeah, there are a lot of things that went into the last 18 months at that school, things that I'm not going to get into in this video, but just to say that working at a school in Korea, they don't actually care about you. And I say this from my experience at 4 different schools over the past 5 years. No school, no director, no parent truly cares about you. They care about, their child getting the best education or having the most, bubbly and enthusiastic English teacher, and the school cares about their profit.
In small print, I did see some parents do care, and I've gotten compliments from parents. I've gotten just encouragement from some individual teachers and parents. So a lot of what she's saying is not a generalization, but it's I guess literally technically a generalization, but generally it feels, if it's not the case, it does feel very often that we don't get a lot of support as English teachers here, but some parents do care.
Right.
Profit margins, and oftentimes if you are the personable, vivacious, peppy teacher, they'll put you in the lower grades because when students start in first grade, the teachers that are there to sort of build this bond, which will tie them to the school and keep them in elementary school for the next 6 years paying the tuition, right? So they put the fun teachers in the lower grades for that reason. So I feel like this video is probably all over the place, but working.
Like I said before, she's a poster child for that age group.
Well, it's not only that. Like I was wanting to say, is that if you're fun, you're bubbly, you're animated, it's easier to get the attention and hold the attention of the younger grades because they generally don't know enough English. So you've got to be very animated and just like a giant children's.
Korea is really hard, and if I could go back in time, what I would have done is come with the EPIC program or not come at all. If I was going to do a Hagwon experience again,
EPIC program is going to be a whole new set of problems.
With any kind of program, I guess there will be some problems, I guess she's saying this because based on what she's heard, people who are involved in the EPIC program have fewer problems. And
it's a little more stable,
yeah.
I would have done 2 years maximum. I wouldn't ever advocate staying at a school longer than 12 months. If you get a private elementary school position, that is the best position you can get in terms of pay, vacation and working hours. You might get lucky and have a good school. It might be crap like it was for me, but that's sort of the best that you can hope for. Don't do what I did and get stuck in Korea too long. Don't overstay your welcome and get bitter. It's just hard with the pandemic.
And get your own place.
Get
stay
your
for a while.
Own
get your own place.
Pandemic, knowing what was the right call to make, go home and potentially not be able to find a job, or stay here with a job where I was miserable, and ultimately I made the wrong decision and that affected my physical and mental health. So all I'm saying is prioritize your own physical and mental health, and don't work in Korea teaching English for too long because
well, too late for us.
It will suck your soul.
Our souls have been sucked.
Okay, well,
we are just soulless.
I think that's it for this video.
Just watch me dancing, and you'll just know that my dance. Yeah, I've got no soul when I dance.
Okay. Well, there we go.
Watch my dancing. Watch my dancing.
That was Cherry. What you think of her story?
Very, very eloquent. Very succinct. Very on point. I think she's probably a fine teacher. A good teacher, and
she just had a lot of bad breaks.
Yeah, and it's too bad because I think it's a shame that her talent wasn't actually recognized and supported. It was just exploited. And
I haven't had a Hagwon Hell story like that, but I've had bad Hagwons and good Hagwons.
Yeah.
It all depends on your luck, basically.
A lot of it depends on luck, and a lot of it also depends on attitude. I guess it just goes to show the only real change you can make is the change within yourself,
Right.
You've got to read the clues and kind of react accordingly. The task.
Stand up for yourself. Also, don't forget, there's 2 words that every Hagwon director fears.
I quit.
Labor board. Labor board. If you mention labor board, you'll get a whole different attitude. But I think that pretty much wraps this up. This is going to be one hell of an edit. Wraps it up. So if you like this, please hit that like button. Subscribe to their channel. Also, don't forget about Cherry Royal. This is her channel we just watched about. And she has a blog about her life experiences. So check her out too.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm gonna subscribe to her right now. Subscribe to her and subscribe to us too. All right, guys. I think that wraps it up. Peter,
yes.
Anything to say?
See you next time.
Okay. All right. See ya. Bye.
I keep looking at the wrong camera. Looking at the screen.